Yes, yes, the Casanovians. Yes, yes, the Casanovians. Ah! Alright, I want to talk to you boys in this one about anti game and how I accidentally discovered anti game when I was 18 years old. Anti game actually allowed me to get my first ever girlfriend, who, looking back now, I'm like, wow, that was actually crazy. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories which will elucidate the things that I'm saying. Just to caveat all this, I'm just 28-year-old dude that probably knows nothing. The more I learn, the less I know. I'm just documenting my experiences. In 100 years, we're all going to be dead. So try not to take yourself or the game or women or the situation or that random spot that you've got on your chest. Try not to take all this stuff too seriously. You'll be all right. But yeah, I'm making these videos really for a former version of myself. I feel as though the whole men's dating space is polluted with manospheric commentators. You've got some side of the equation who are like, oh, it's all about looks, money, status. You have to be a high value man. You've probably tried dating apps, but they didn't work. You don't want to be hanging around grotty nightclubs until 3 a.m. You don't want to attract women through your social circle, maybe because those are not women you find attractive, or maybe like me, when I was 18, 19, 20 years old, maybe you don't have any friends right now. So you're like, where do I meet women? And then I think you end up going down, or certainly I did. I ended up going down this rabbit hole at 23 years old, which is when I first learned or started learning this whole thing that we call game. And I started studying all of these different models, like the London day game model. And I learned how to vibe, I learned how to stack, I learned push, pull, neg. As she hooked yet? And I look back at my early conversations on this channel, and even though I was courageous and I respect myself for just going out there and prioritizing imperfect action, I feel as though for the first couple of years of my development, especially when it came to call approach, I felt I often came across as too gamey. Yeah, like a little bit too structured. Like a lot of the things that I said, when I look back now, I'm like, yeah, you just weren't really comfortable in your own skin back then, and you would hide behind humor a lot. And I think because I came from a performative background, so I spent a decade of my life as a close up magician, I was always used to putting on this act, hiding behind a facade, and I was always terrified of the women that I was speaking with actually seeing my most authentic self in case my most authentic self wasn't enough, and then I was terrified of not receiving love from the feminine and feeling like an unlovable piece of shit, yada yada yada. So I want to just tell you a quick story about anti-game and how anti-game accidentally got me my very first girlfriend at 18 years old. All right, so at 18 years old, I left my small hometown of Barrow in Furness in the Lake District. Population back then was about 60,000 people. And up to this point in my life, I'd never been drunk. I went to university at 18 years old as a virgin, right? I'd never kissed a girl. I'd never held hands with a girl in a romantic way. I never had a girlfriend. I'd certainly never had sex, right? So I was going to university completely clueless when it came to connecting with the feminine. And it was a big move for me going from the small town of Barrow to the big city of Liverpool. So I studied English literature at the University of Liverpool. I remember getting there the first day, and I'll never forget my first day of university. I got into the dorm room, or the halls of residence as we call it in the UK. My mum dropped me off, and in my halls of residence there was 15 other people. So in one corridor we had 16 people who were all living there. Different people, different backgrounds. And I just remember getting into my university room, locking my door. It was just me and my mum inside of there, and my mum was getting ready to say goodbye. She was really emotional because it was obviously a big step for her as well. And I remember breaking down, crying on my bed and just being consoled by my mum. I remember my exact words that I said to her. I said to my mum, I just don't feel confident. Like, I just don't feel confident. Because I remember walking into the halls of residence, looking through the window into the kitchen, and the other people were horseshoed in the kitchen. Like they were all laughing, they were all joking. It looked like they were already best of friends. And because I came from such a socially inadequate background. Like I'm not a natural when it comes to any of this social stuff. Like I had to really try hard and put the reps in to build my social skills brick by brick. None of this stuff comes natural. I didn't just hop out the womb being hashtag confident. I built my social skills through putting myself through the social fire with magic. But that day in the university, I just broke down crying. I was just like, Mum, I don't feel confident. And she said to me, listen, do you want to go home? Like, we can just take the car, we can just go home. Like, if you don't want to be here. And I don't know what it was inside of me, but I was like, nah, like I'm not going home. I'm not quitting. I'm not letting fear get the best of me. So I wished my mum goodbye, got back to my room, unpacked some of my stuff. I just remember being paralyzed by fear in that hotel, not hotel, fucking hell. I wasn't baller back then. Just in my halls of residence. And I just remember plucking up so much courage to leave that room and then go into the kitchen. Dude, it was like, it was so nerve wracking for me. I remember opening the door. Obviously, everyone looks at the person who just entered the room. And I'm just like a rabbit in headlights. I don't know what to say. I don't know where to sit. I feel as though I've just interrupted a really important meeting. So I sit down, just have some like general chit chat. Anyway, that's how my university life started. Yeah, I just felt like the ugly duckling in the room. We all went down for dinner together, and I was looking at everybody who was at the University of Liverpool in this canteen. And like this was the first time in a long time that I'd ever been exposed to the world outside of Barrow-in-Furness. So I was in this carousel of comparisons. Every guy that walked past me, I was like, whoa, he's better looking, he's got a nicer face, he's got bigger arms, he's got a bigger chest. He's probably gonna have so much other experiences with girls. And I just felt deeply inadequate. And yeah, this went on for a long time. Anyway, one night we all decided to play, the game beer pong. Yeah, we started playing beer pong. Bear in mind, up to this point, I'd never been drunk in my entire life. So we started playing beer pong. We were playing it with cider. Anyway, I started to feel the buzz. I started to get slightly drunk. And then we all went out together for a night out. And this was like my first ever night out. I'd never been to a nightclub before. I'd never been drunk before. And I remember just being stood in that nightclub. I had no idea what to do. And I had no idea how to operate. One of like the main guys in our hall of residence, he was called James. He was like what you would describe as a natural. Like he just had it. Like he had a girlfriend, but he was seeing other girls. And I like really looked up to this guy. I was like, whoa, this guy is an absolute don. Like I want to be like this guy. I want to be like James. Like all the girls liked him. All the guys wanted to be him. Just like an absolute natural. And we went to the toilet together, and he was very direct with me. He just looked at me, like the way that I was dressed was terrible. My haircut was weird. I just had so much, which was not working in my favor. And he just looked at me and he was like, you don't know what you're doing, do you? And I was like, no, I've got no idea what I'm doing. And I remember his advice. It was just be confident, bro. And he pulled up his zip and went back into flirtation mode. So yeah, just be confident. I was like, thanks, James. Great advice. Anyway, after a couple of weeks of me being at university, I got to this point where I just got pissed off. Like, I just got pissed off at the fact that everybody seemed to be better looking. Everybody seemed to have better social skills. Everybody seemed to have this social game figured out. And I was just stood there with my dick in my hands, feeling like this inadequate piece of shit. So I remember making a decision one day before we went on another night out where I just said to myself, I'm just going to stop trying. Like, I'm just going to stop caring. And looking back now, I realize that was the inception of anti-game. Because the first thing that I would love you to take away from this stream is you become attractive when you stop caring. You become attractive once you stop caring. All of this game stuff that you're probably consuming right now, push, pull, vibe, stack, looks, money, status, you're being bombarded with so much information that it's causing you to stay stuck in this paralysis analysis where you're overthinking all of your decisions. Am I worthy? Am I good enough? Why would a woman like her want a guy like me? So rather than taking the action, you stay stuck to the spot, you experience failure in advance, you reject yourself on the world's behalf, and because you don't take action, you feel even more shit about yourself. So if you can understand, you become attractive when you stop caring. That's going to save you many years of wasted time, effort, and energy. So once I made this decision, we went out on another night out, rather than trying to suck up to other people, rather than trying to be noticed, rather than trying to be cool, funny, witty, charming, charming, charismatic, attractive, I just stopped giving a fuck, right? I just stopped giving a flying fuck. And that night culminated in me and one of my other housemates. We end up going to this, I don't know how we end up getting there. Anyway, went to this house party, which was across the road from our halls of residence. Ended up at this house party. And then me and my friend are just talking about having freshers flu and we need to go for a shit at inconvenient times, just talking to each other like boys talk to each other. And then all of a sudden, there's a noise. I turn around, the door swings open, and this absolute worldie, probably the hottest girl that I've ever seen up to this point in my life, comes through into the room, right? So this was a girl that she lived in the house, and she came down to complain about the noise. She was like, what's all this noise about? Like, I told you not to have house parties. Like, I've got class tomorrow. I need to be up early. Like, can you turn the noise down? So I just, and this is something that I'd never done up to this point. I remember just looking at her and just being like, yo, calm down. And she locked eyes with me, came over to me. I was like, I'm sorry. Like, who the fuck are you talking to? And because I was in this mode now where I just didn't care, like, I just stopped caring, we ended up connecting. And I'd never connected with a girl in this way before. So we had a little bit of back and forth. And I remember talking to her about having freshers flu. I was saying to her, listen, I can't stop going for a shit. You think you've got problems. Imagine having to like flood diarrhea out your system at 3 a.m. Like this noise right now is the least of your problems. By the way, do you want to have a thumb war? All right, so I just put my hand out and she like cracked a smile. She held my hand and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting to a base here. I'm not sure if it's second or third base, but fucking hell, I'm holding hands. I'm activating Kino. And we started having a thumb war and we must have spoke to each other for the best part of an hour. We were just talking about life. I just didn't care. And she could tell that I didn't care and she liked it. That girl ended up being my first girlfriend. And I remember taking her back. We were seeing each other for a couple of months. This was a girl that I lost my virginity to. That's a separate story as well because I was a porn addict and because I struggled to get erections with new women, we were trying to have sex for, I would say, maybe 3 weeks before I finally managed to get it in. And like, honestly, like, she was really supportive and I owe so much of my development to this girl. But I remember taking her back to my halls of residence once. I wanted to take her back to kind of just like show her off to like the other guys in there because up to that point I was just the outsider. I was like the outcast of our halls of residence. And I remember taking her back and we all went on a night out together. And one of the girls who I was living with, she saw me and she saw my girlfriend. She saw the two of us together. And because she'd had a couple of drinks, this girl who I was living with, she just turned to me and was like, how the fuck did you get her? And I honestly took that as a compliment because back then, I didn't have looks, I didn't have money, I didn't have status. Like when I was 18 years old, I have posted a few pictures before, like I was not physically attractive, right? I had zero money, I certainly didn't have any status. But what I had in bucket loads was this devil may care, zero fucks given attitude, yeah? I approached her and I was playing the game back then as though I had nothing to lose. And that's why I won. Now, I'm not saying looks, money, status don't matter, but I think with the whole game thing, I think just having these vanity metrics at a base level, right? So yeah, like make yourself more physically attractive, like I've done, right? Make more money so you can actually support the lifestyle and look after the people who you care about. If you're struggling to make money, it's going to cause a lot of stress in your life, right? So paying for dates is going to be a problem. And in regards to status, you can have relative status as well, right? Like the head chef in a restaurant has got status in that particular relative kingdom. I told the story about one of the guys that I used to go to the gym with. He was called Wayne. In our gym, he was a local celebrity because he just talked to everybody. He opened everybody. He just left everybody better than he found them. And he had local celebrity status in this relative kingdom. But I think this notion of anti-game is your ability to reject anything from your reality that doesn't resonate with you and understand you can have the looks, you can have the money, you can have the status, but if your internal hasn't caught up with your external, if you still feel like the ugly duckling inside, the analogy that I always use is it's like working your bollocks off to have a Lamborghini and then being too scared to drive it. The majority of the guys who I work with one-to-one, the guys that we've got in our private community, the Entourage, they already tick all of these boxes. They've got the looks, they've got the money, they've got the status, but they still can't pull a muscle because whenever they want to go over and strike up a conversation with a wife-worthy woman, they experience the doubt, they experience the hesitation. And I've actually found with good-looking guys who've got money, who've got their shit together, they can almost build a wall of ego around them, especially when it comes to cold approach, whereby they feel as though they've got more to lose in the approach. But me at 18 years old, because I'd already made peace with the fact that I was ugly, I didn't have any status, I didn't have any money, it just became fun. It just became, right, I'm operating right at the bottom now, so the only way is up. It's like that quote from Fight Club. It's only after we've lost everything are we free to do anything. Yeah? So the character that I developed, and I do think that's what it comes down to in terms of attraction, right? Because I think we have to remind ourselves female attraction is very different to male attraction. Zan Perrion said it best. Men become aroused through their eyes, women become aroused through their ears. And there's a lot to be said from that. But my experience at 18 years old of this notion of anti-game, of not trying, of not caring, of not being emotional about my current situation, but just deciding to do the best with what I've got, having this devil may care, ZFG or zero fucks given mentality. And I realize more and more when I'm teaching my guys and the way that I've developed over the years, I don't think there's a better example of anti-game than there was in the video that I uploaded, which is it's the main video on the homepage of my YouTube channel. It's I approached 33 women in London to overcome my fear of rejection. That video is the epitome of anti-game. I completely eradicate any notion of game, right? All of this push-pull vibe stack, all of this stuff that is being fed into the minds of men. Oh, you need to work on your technique. You need to position your hand in this way. You need to make sure your feet are this length apart. You need to have this particular way of shaping your beard because that's going to make you more high value. Oh, you need to wait this length of time to text a girl. Or, oh, you can't give a woman a direct compliment. All this blah, blah bullshit. That video, if you've not watched it, just go watch it. The main video on the homepage of my channel. I honestly think that is the most iconic, greatest video that this whole industry has ever produced because I prove in real time you don't need game, right? You just need balls. You just need character. And you need to understand what we're doing. Because I'm not a dating coach, right? I'm not a dating coach. I'm not a day gamer. I'm certainly not a pickup artist. The way that I perceive myself is a freedom from bullshit practitioner. I think that's the journey that all of us are on. It's not a game journey. It's a freedom from bullshit journey. It's a 2 middle finger salute to a society that wants to keep you as a static spectator. All of those limitations that you've built in your mind, most of your limitations are hallucinations. We do suffer more in imagination than in reality. Whoever you've been in the past, whatever mistakes that you've made, however much of a fuck up you feel as though you've been, I don't care about who you've been. I give a fuck about who you want to be. And when you embark on this unorthodox odyssey of masculine renaissance, what you'll realize is you're not learning anything new because you've already got everything you could possibly need inside of you. Instead, this is a process of unlearning, right? Stripping back those layers of social conditioning so we can connect with our most authentic self, because that's what these women who we're approaching, that's what they want to feel, right? They don't want some guy who's masquerading as a personification of perfection, right? They want the real you, yeah? And that means, at times, being a little bit more vulnerable. If you've run out of things to say, own it, announce it, yeah? Oh, you distracted me. You just look too fucking good right now. I was about to say something, but my mind's gone blank. You'll have to help me. Otherwise, we'll have to talk about our hashtag feelings and stuff. If you want to go all in with your compliment, but you're scared, oh, is this going to make me look too needy? Is this going to make me look too available? Oh, what would a high value man do? Like, as soon as you're starting to have this narrative, this rhetoric in your mind, you've already lost because you're giving in to the thinking mind rather than being able to act on impulse, right? I honestly think if we can just break it down to its essence, all game comes down to is open and close. That's all it comes down to. It's your ability to deliver the value that you've built to the world in a non-needy way, which basically means you've got excitement in your life that isn't her. I think a lot of guys who get started in this world of cold approach, of game, etc., I still think they're too emotional about the woman. They're too emotional about the outcome. They're too emotional about how the world is going to perceive them. I understand it. Like, I've gone through all of this. I was going through that at 13 years old. I was battling for 2 months with approach anxiety when I was first trying to learn magic on the streets of Barrow Furnace. I used to say to myself every day, the night before, tomorrow I will go out and I will perform magic for strangers. Tomorrow rolled round and nothing changed because nothing changed. I would try and pluck up the courage, but I just couldn't overcome the resistance that the voice in my head was creating. But I think if you can learn this, right, if you can learn this anti-game system, you become powerful because you stop caring. You become attractive because you stop caring. And this is the system that I have unknowingly been teaching to myself, the system that I have unknowingly been teaching to my clients. And the feedback that I often get from the guys that work with me, especially during that first consultation call, is there's just something different about what you're doing here, and I like it. Like, I've looked at other dating coaches, but a lot of them feel weird. There seems to be this weird formulaic robotification of conversation, but when I came across your videos, everything just seemed more natural. You had more of a humanization element to it. I think this is the reason why when I work with my guys one-on-one, they become part of our private community, the Entourage. This is why they get the results that they do, because I just keep things simple. I think that's been one of my goals for this whole space. It's making seduction simple. I don't think this needs to be a complicated process. It's like, I'm a man, she's a woman, I like that, and not every woman is going to be into you. Just because you've gone over and give a woman a compliment, she doesn't owe you anything. Just because you've got a phone number, a lot of guys get emotional when they're like, oh, I got this number, the conversation was great, but the phone number flaked. It's like, yeah, dude, that's the game, right? Always be opening, always be closing, always be qualifying. Like, if you don't play, you're not going to win. And the more you open, the more you close. But I think the best guys in this game, they win because they don't care. And I think something that I learned from one of my business mentors, Mr. William Brown, shout out. He said something really interesting to me during one of our consultation calls when he said one of his mentors once said to him, Will, you will make the most money that you've ever made in your career when you no longer need to make money. And that's exactly what happened with Will. Like, I think he just had his best financial month recently. He made like something crazy, like $450,000 in a month. And he was explaining to me the reason why he was able to hit these numbers was because he doesn't need the money anymore. Like, he'd already sold his previous company for millions, right? So if you're starting off right now at rock bottom, you've got no women, you've got no leads, you hate yourself, you're working a job you hate in a city you despise, you don't feel as though you're good looking, you feel as though, oh, it's all about looks, money, status. What I would say is, even if it's not true, we make it true by believing in it, okay? So if you truly believe that you have to be a certain way of looking, if you truly believe with all of your being that you have to look like a male model, you have to be making 8 figures, you have to have a fucking 10-pack, you need to look like you just come off the front cover of Men's Health or Paris Fashion Week. If you truly believe that, that's the reality that you'll experience. This is going into some deep esoteric territory here, but it's practical because it works. Evidence has got the loudest voice. I used this when I was 18 to get a girl that, on paper, I should never have attracted. And it's because I believed in the narrative that I was feeding myself. I made the decision that I was going to reject anything from my reality that didn't resonate with me. I made the decision that I'm going to become attractive by not caring. that was the reality that I decided to operate with. It was almost like implementing strategic ignorance. I had delusional optimism and irrational confidence, and now I understood because I wasn't as cognitively coherent back then. I now understand. Perception's reality. As a man thinketh, so is he. Even if it's not true, we make it true by believing in it. So, anti-game, I do believe, is the new opportunity for you to break free from your own bullshit, right? And like I said to you boys at the start, this is just advice. This is simply what's worked for me. It worked for me at 18 years old. And the more I've developed in this whole game thing, the more I've been able to get back to this place of origin. Yeah. Just doing less, caring less, trying less, accepting that, right, not every woman is going to be into me. But the more you level up your life across the board, the more opportunities you're going to have, and the more you're going to actually be able to operate from this place of self-adoration rather than self-deprecation. I think the final thing I'll say, I think there's a lot of, we'll just call them service providers in this industry, guys who label themselves as dating coaches. And whenever you listen to their advice, it's always uber technical, right? It's always what to say, how to stand, what to wear. And I'm not saying that these things don't have gravitas. I'm not saying these things don't matter. But in my experience anyway, having coached guys who already fit the looks, money, status category, I do believe that this whole thing of intersexual dynamics is 93% inner game. Yeah, it's not what you say. It's not even how you say it. It's who you believe yourself to be when you say it. And if you understand that, your entire relationships with the feminine are going to transform. So what I've recently done is, I actually did it today. That's why my brain feels a little bit fried. So apologies if I'm not as cognitively coherent today. I've been starting to put together a new testimonials channel. So all the guys who've worked with me one-on-one, the guys who are currently inside my private network, the Entourage, I'm starting to put testimonials together, like a separate testimonials page, because I think we currently live in a trust recession. I think a lot of guys want help in the space of dating. I think a lot of guys have got shame attached to reaching out for help. But I think above all else, a lot of guys don't have trust with the guys who they see online. So for me, evidence has always had the loudest voice. So yeah, in the description of this video, I'm starting to put testimonials onto a separate page. So if you are curious about what it's like to work with me, then I've started to put testimonials on there. So you can just listen to the guys who've worked with me personally, the experiences that they've had. And yeah, hopefully that shows you that I'm not just talking out my ass, and I actually do this stuff for a living, and I change lives for a living, and I continue to do so with the guys inside my private network. It's when guys work with me, it's not just this like random weird weekend boot camp where maybe you'll get results, maybe you don't. Like I've got guys in the Entourage who they've been my clients since 2023, right? The in-person coaching experience that we do together, that's just the start. My commitment to my guys doesn't end when that coaching experience ends. Like I'm in your corner, holding you accountable, helping you make the right connections and putting the right systems in place. But I just wanted to get this out there today, anti-game. And I would recommend, even if you've already watched it, go back and watch that video, the main video on the homepage of my channel. I approached 33 girls in London to overcome my fear of rejection. And that demonstrates anti-game in real time. And honestly, I just feel as though this is the way to move forward. I think there's so much information out there, but what we lack is implementation. And one of the biggest realizations that I had was average people are not average because they're lazy. Average people are considered average simply because they're scared. And I think a big reason why guys are scared to take action is because they've just got too much information in their head. Oh, I need to be witty. I need to be charming. Oh, has she hooked yet? Am I being high value enough in this moment? And they second guess all of their decisions simply because their heads are bombarded with information. So yeah, to make seduction simple, that's the goal. That's the energy that I move with. And if you've not done so already, go and watch that video, the 33 video on my homepage of my channel, because I think that will help put all of the thing that we've just theorized here into action. And you can actually see me out there in the field practicing what I preach rather than just sat on my own at home eating salt and sweetie Pringles while stuffing my face with fish liver. But anyway, boys, listen, if you've enjoyed this live stream, drop it a like, consider subscribing to the channel. Testimonials are in the description below. And I wish you all an incredible, outrageously successful day. Go out there, take massive action. Don't die with your music still inside of you. All right, boys. Love yous. Speak again tomorrow. Bye.